Many people live their lives without realizing they're trapped in an invisible loop. Stress has become their primary language, and they constantly complain about their jobs, their relationships, and their health. They talk about symptoms that just won't go away, and every time they do, they believe they're releasing the pressure, but in reality, they're only bringing it back inside. Many people live their lives without realizing they're trapped in an invisible loop. Stress has become their primary language, and they constantly complain about their jobs, their relationships, and their health. They talk about symptoms that just won't go away, and every time they do, they believe they're releasing the pressure, but in reality, they're only bringing it back inside. This happens because every single word of complaint, every tension-filled phrase, doesn't just express the stress, it reaffirms it. The body hears this, the nervous system gets activated, the heart rate accelerates, the mind becomes exhausted, and the obedient brain interprets this as a command. This is who we are, this is what we live. Without even realizing it, they repeat stress like a daily mantra. The most painful part is they're unknowingly feeding the very thing they most want to let go of, the discomfort, the exhaustion, and the illnesses that worsen when there's no inner peace. Just imagine for a moment that every time you talk about a problem in your life, you're actually building an invisible wall around yourself. It sounds drastic, doesn't it? But if you pay close attention, you'll notice that this is a profound truth that can completely change your way of seeing the world. Consider a young woman who starts having constant headaches. She goes to the doctor, gets tests done, and everything comes back normal, yet the symptoms persist. What no one sees is that every night when she gets home, she repeats the same phrases. I can't take this anymore. This job is killing me. I'm useless. And she doesn't say it just once, she says it every single day. Her nervous system never gets a break, her mind never lets its guard down, and her obedient body begins to scream through pain. Slowly, that accumulated tension turns into insomnia, anxiety, muscle knots, and migraines, until one day she wakes up feeling like she can't even trust her own body. This isn't an exaggeration. This happens to millions of people, because what we repeat, we reinforce, and what we reinforce becomes our very biology. This habit comes with a real and deep cost. Every time you verbalize a difficulty, every time you mentally repeat what hurts you, your brain strengthens those same neural pathways. It's like carving a rut in the ground by walking the same path over and over until you can no longer get out of it. Picture it like this. You're in a forest with many possible paths, but you always follow the same one, the most shadowy, the narrowest, the one that leads to exhaustion. At first it seems like a choice, but with time, it becomes a mental prison. Without realizing it, your mind gets used to thinking in terms of lack, danger, and urgency. Your nervous system enters a state of chronic alert. Your body begins to live as if it's at war, even when you're just sitting in your living room. This is how imbalances begin: anxiety, insomnia, digestive disorders, and autoimmune diseases. It all starts with an idea repeated over and over, that the world is a difficult place and that you're on the verge of collapsing. As Louise Hay used to say, stress is a response of the body to fearful thoughts. If that's true, how many times a day are you choosing to think from a place of fear without even realizing it? However, there is a powerful alternative, and it's not about denying what you feel, but about taking control of what you repeat. You can change this dynamic immediately. The key is simple, though not easy. Stop talking incessantly about your problems and observe what happens in your body and mind. When you interrupt that repetitive pattern of complaint and worry, your brain, which was previously trapped in survival mode, begins to relax. New neural connections activate. The mind is no longer occupied imagining dangers, but is instead seeking possibilities. This simple shift not only relieves your mind, but also begins to heal your body. Neuroscience confirms it. What you think, what you say, and what you repeat modifies your biology. If every word you utter reinforces stress, your nervous system remains tense, your breathing becomes shallow, your digestion gets altered, and your heart races as if you were running, even while at rest. But when you change your focus, when you decide to talk about solutions, about small victories, and about what's working, your entire system begins to release tension. your body stops fighting, your mind opens up, and your energy shifts. And here comes the real question. What would happen if you stopped feeding your stress with words and started nurturing your peace with awareness? Just observe those who manage to live a balanced life with health, clarity, and direction. Have you noticed how they express themselves? It's not that they don't have problems, but you'll rarely see them feeding their stress by talking about them over and over with the same drama and anguish. They aren't denying what they're experiencing. What they're doing is protecting their mental and vital energy. Those who understand the impact of stress don't allow themselves to live trapped in the same painful narrative for years, because they know that every thought and every phrase you repeat is like a drop of water that falls on the same stone until it wears it away. And in this case, the stone is your nervous system, your defenses, and your peace. Stress is not just a passing emotion. When you hold on to it day after day, month after month, year after year, it begins to silently make you sick. Sleep disorders, chronic fatigue, anxiety, digestive issues, uncontrolled blood pressure, inflammation, migraines, and depression can all originate from something as simple yet devastating as a toxic internal dialogue repeated for too long. Louise Hay expressed it clearly. Stress is a socially accepted form of self-violence. Chronic stress is not born from great catastrophes, but from small phrases repeated daily, like "I don't have time," "I feel on edge," or "this is killing me." Every time you repeat those words, your body believes it and acts accordingly. But when you change the way you speak, you not only transform what you think, you also transform how your body responds to anxiety. Imagine this. Two people experience the same symptoms: palpitations, chest tightness, and insomnia. One says, "I'm losing control, this is going to get worse." The other breathes and says, "I'm going through a difficult time, but I know I can get through it." The difference? The first person feeds the anxious cycle. Their nervous system activates even more, and they feel trapped. The second person begins to regain internal control. Their body relaxes, their mind calms down, and their energy shifts. This isn't cheap self-help, it's neurobiology. Have you ever wondered how many times a day you're activating your anxiety just by the way you talk to yourself? This type of language is not harmless, it's fuel for chronic stress. Every time you say "I have to" instead of "I choose to," your nervous system interprets that you're trapped. When you describe something as difficult instead of a challenge, you give your body a signal of danger. Then cortisol rises, tension accumulates, and the mind races. These words, repeated over and over, condition the way you perceive life and how your body reacts. But changing that is possible. Louise Hay taught that language can be a form of medicine. Affirmations like "I am safe," "All is well," "I trust life and my process," and "In this moment I choose to release tension" are not just pretty phrases, they are signals that tell your mind it can let its guard down. When your mind lets its guard down, your body does too. Words also shape how your mind processes the past, and that processing directly impacts your stress levels. If you describe an experience as a failure, your nervous system stores it as a threat. Every time you recall that situation, your body reacts as if you were still in danger. Your muscles tense, your breathing quickens, and anxiety returns. But if you choose to reinterpret it as a lesson, something that made you stronger or wiser, the body responds differently. The emotional burden decreases, the heart calms down, and the past stops being a constant trigger for distress. The language you use to talk about what you've lived through doesn't just change your story, it changes how you feel when you remember it. Over time, that can make the difference between living in survival mode and starting to feel true peace. Another fundamental detail is how we structure our phrases, because that determines how we feel. Words can be the bridge to calm or the trigger for more anxiety. Imagine someone saying, "I was calm today, but I know the stress will return tomorrow." That simple word "but" completely erases the feeling of serenity. The body, upon hearing it, prepares for the worst. Now listen to it this way: "I was calm today, and tomorrow I will continue to find ways to maintain my balance." The emotional difference is immense. Instead of anticipating tension, you're opening up space for trust. Or think about this: "I have had anxiety, but it never goes away," versus "I have had anxiety, and every day I find new tools to calm myself." One invites a block, the other hope. Remember, stress is not only relieved with medicine, it's also relieved with well-chosen words. Your mind hears every phrase and your body reacts. Therefore, every structure you choose is an opportunity to heal. Your brain is always on alert for what you tell yourself, even if you don't notice it. It doesn't distinguish between a real threat and a statement that sounds harmless but activates stress. For example, if you repeat phrases like, "I'm not good at this," or "I don't have control over my anxiety," your mind takes them as absolute truths. From there, your body responds by releasing cortisol, accelerating your breathing, and creating muscle tension. On the other hand, when you start talking to yourself with more compassion and flexibility, I'm learning to manage this every day, I understand myself better, I give myself permission to go at my own pace, you're opening up new neural pathways, your mind calms down, your nervous system relaxes, and you begin to build a different perception of yourself, one that is more solid, more loving, and more capable. True change begins when you become aware of the exact moment your mind, almost automatically, is about to repeat the same old phrases. This is too much for me, I can't take it anymore, everything stresses me out. It's in that moment right there that you have the greatest power. Old mental patterns are like a river that has carved its channel for years. But that doesn't mean you can't redirect the flow, you just need to take the helm with presence. Every time you consciously choose a different word, you're carving a new path. You're teaching your body that not everything has to be lived from a place of urgency, anguish, or overload. Transforming this internal language isn't easy, but it is deeply liberating. Because where there were once automatic reactions marked by stress, now there is a pause, a choice in mental health. It all starts with a simple but powerful habit, pausing before you speak. That pause, however minimal it seems, has the power to prevent stress from taking control of your mind and body. Here are some practical tips that can help you reduce anxiety and transform your relationship with language. First, take a deep breath before you respond. Even in the middle of a difficult conversation, a conscious breath activates your parasympathetic nervous system and helps you get out of alert mode. Second, change "I have to" "I choose to." Saying "I choose to rest" instead of "I have to rest" gives you back control and reduces the feeling of obligation that feeds so much anxiety. Third, use gentle words with yourself. Instead of "everything goes wrong for me," try "I'm learning to handle this in a better way." This not only calms your emotional system but also generates a more gentle response from your environment. Fourth, integrate affirmations that deactivate stress. Louise Hay used to say, "I am willing to release fear, all is well in my world, and I trust the process of life." Repeating these phrases with presence can make the difference between a tense day and a calm one. Your words are not just sounds, they are commands, and each one of them can either ignite or extinguish the storm you sometimes carry inside. Starting now, I propose a very simple but profoundly transformative experiment for you. Over the next 24 hours, pay close attention to how you talk about what causes you stress or anxiety. Every time you hear yourself repeating phrases that increase tension, take a conscious pause. Instead of saying "this is too much for me," change it to "I'm learning to handle this calmly." Replace "I can't take it anymore" with "I am going to give myself what I need to move forward." Rephrasing isn't faking, it's healing. It's giving new direction to your energy. Remember, the language you use is the mold for your nervous system. Changing your words can be the first step to alleviating the invisible weight you carry. Louise Hay once told a story about a man who approached her at one of her conferences. He was visibly tense, with a tired face and hurried breathing. He told her, "Louise, I'm at my limit. My partner pressures me, I feel exhausted all the time, and I'm starting to have chest pains." Louise listened attentively, and with her usual calm replied, "My dear, it's not just what your partner is doing, it's what you're constantly repeating to yourself about the situation that is making you sick." She then proposed something simple. For 1 week, he should change his internal dialogue to kind phrases like, "I am willing to release the tension," or "I choose to see this situation with peace." A short time later, the man returned to see her, and confessed that with just that small change, his body and mind had begun to feel lighter. Chronic stress disconnects you from the present. When the body lives in a constant state of alert, the mind jumps to the future, or relives the past over and over. In this mental back and forth, the now disappears. You stop noticing what you have, what works, what is still good. Everything begins to look like a threat, even neutral or good things. The mind gets trapped in its own labyrinth of worries, and clarity is slowly lost. Decisions become impulsive or paralyzing. Relationships become tense because the other person starts to feel that you're no longer present, that you're somewhere else, trapped in an internal dialogue that never stops. And something more subtle, but just as important, creativity is extinguished, because no spark can survive in the midst of a constant storm of fear. That's why returning to the present moment is medicine. Breathe, look around, listen to what you're saying, and choose again. Not from habit, not from reaction, but from awareness. As Louise Hay said, "I am safe. I trust the process of life. Everything I need to know is revealed to me at the perfect moment. In this very instant, I choose to calm my mind and relax my body." Because yes, the body listens, and what you tell yourself today can be the first step to returning home to the present. The body pays the bill for the language we use. Every word we utter doesn't just get carried away by the wind, it stays within us, vibrating in every cell. Every time you say, "This is making me sick, I can't take this anymore," or "This is too much for me." It's not a harmless exaggeration, it's a direct instruction to the body, and the obedient body responds. The nervous system activates. The stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, flood the body as if you were in the middle of a real danger. If that language is repeated every day, the body doesn't have time to recover. It becomes a silent battlefield. I'll give you clear examples, because this isn't poetry, it's reality. A man who constantly says, "This is breaking my nerves," begins to suffer from insomnia, tremors, and digestive problems. Another who repeats, "This is going to kill me," while dealing with a separation, ends up with a heart arrhythmia that no doctor can explain from a physical standpoint. A woman who for years has been saying, "I don't have the strength for this," ends up with chronic fatigue, muscle aches, and depression resistant to all treatment. None of this is a coincidence. The mind speaks, and the body always listens. Louise Hay said it with clarity. Every thought we have is creating our future. Sickness is a message from the body, asking us to change the thought that created it. I am willing to release the thought patterns that cause me tension and pain. If you repeat that you can't go on, your body believes you. If on the other hand, you tell it, "I'm learning to be at peace," it believes that too. And in that difference may lie your true healing. Stress is a signal, not an enemy. Not all stress is an enemy. Sometimes it's a bell ringing to save us. The body isn't failing, it's speaking. It's saying, "I can't go on like this." And instead of seeing it as the problem, we can begin to listen to it as the most loyal messenger we have. Think of Laura, a woman who for years strived to be perfect, a good mother, a good partner, a good professional. Every time she felt exhausted, she disguised it with coffee and obligations. When her body began to give her signals, intense headaches, anxiety upon waking, hair loss, she ignored them. She kept repeating to herself, "I don't have time for this, I have to keep going." Until one day, her body decided to make itself heard more forcefully. A nervous breakdown forced her to stop completely. In the middle of a consultation, with tears in her eyes, she said, "My body betrayed me." No, it didn't betray her. It protected her. It forced her to stop when she didn't know how. The stress wasn't the enemy, it was the messenger. It was the faithful reflection of a life where she had placed herself at the very bottom of her own list. When we start to see stress as that warning signal, not as a punishment, something changes. We learn to take breaks without feeling guilty, to breathe before we react, and to choose to let go of what hurts, what weighs us down, and what makes us sick. Louise Hay expressed it with a disarming clarity. "I am willing to release the need to tense up and worry. I trust the process of life. I am safe. My body guides me toward balance and harmony." Listening to your body is an act of love, and sometimes the greatest act of self-love is deciding not to return to the place that made you sick. Our environment is a mirror of our internal dialogue. What we say doesn't just influence how we feel, it also shapes how others perceive, respond to, and support us. The people around us often amplify our stress, not because they want to harm us, but because they resonate with what we're expressing. If everything we communicate is tension, urgency, or exhaustion, it's very likely that the same will be reflected in the environment. It's as if we carry a frequency in our voice, in our gestures, in our tone, and that frequency is replicated in those who listen to us. You come home saying, "I'm fed up, this is unbearable, I can't take it anymore." Even someone who loves you can start responding with the same energy. More than understanding, they give you back haste, frustration, or judgment. But if instead you arrive saying, "Today was a difficult day, but I'm looking for ways to let go," the air softens, the conversation changes, and so does the energy. Our language has the power to either contaminate or heal a space. By changing your words, your interactions change, the looks change, the tone of conversations changes, and even who stays and who leaves changes, because your environment also adjusts to the vibration you choose to maintain. And it's not magic, it's coherence. Because when your internal dialogue is more compassionate, the world around you is too. Stress from the demand for perfection. One of the most subtle and cruel forms of stress is that which arises from excessive self-demand. It doesn't manifest with shouts or external chaos, but with a constant internal voice that whispers, "It's not enough, it's still not enough." We live trying to do everything perfectly. Our work, our home, our relationships, our bodies, and even our spirituality. We want to be efficient, flawless, and admirable, and behind it all is fear. Fear of disappointing others, of being judged, and of not being loved if we don't meet that invisible standard we created for ourselves. This type of stress doesn't make noise, but it consumes us in silence. It feeds an anxiety that creeps into moments of rest, sleepless nights, and tense mornings. And the most painful part is that it often masquerades as discipline, responsibility, or even success. But the truth is different. No one can sustain so much weight without breaking inside, because perfectionism is a cage disguised as a virtue. The anxiety that arises from this constant pressure is not a weakness, it's a sign of emotional saturation. The body is saying, "I can't go on like this." The soul is saying, "I don't need you to perfect me, I need you to accept me." You didn't come into the world to prove anything, you came to live in peace with yourself. For this, Louise Hay offered 3 affirmations to release this pressure. I am willing to stop demanding perfection from myself.
I allow myself to rest without guilt. My worth does not depend on what I achieve, but on who I am. Stress is not eliminated, it's transformed. We sometimes believe that the goal is to eliminate stress completely, as if it were a plague that must be eradicated, but that idea in itself can create more frustration. At its deepest root, stress isn't the enemy, it's a sign of life. Stress appears when something inside you clashes with what you're experiencing outside, when what you're doing no longer aligns with what you're feeling, when your soul is screaming for change, but you're clinging to the same old things. And yes, there are days when it becomes unbearable. Your chest tightens, your mind won't shut up, and your body seems tired without having done anything. But that's the key. The body isn't failing, it's talking to you. It's saying stop holding on to what no longer belongs to you. It's not about stress disappearing, it's about learning to listen to it, to transform it into necessary pauses, coherent decisions, and honest movement. Transforming stress means transforming the relationship you have with yourself. It's realizing that you can slow down without losing your worth, that you can change direction without feeling like a failure. Every time you stop, every time you breathe with awareness and choose to respond instead of react, stress begins to lose its form as a threat and starts to reveal itself as a message. It's no longer an enemy you must defeat. It's a signal showing you where not to go, a compass pointing directly to what you've been ignoring. When you listen to stress with presence, it gives you back the direction you had lost in the noise. It reminds you that you're alive, that something inside you is asking to be attended to. And if you stop running, if you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you'll see that the tension was nothing more than a misdirected impulse, an energy wanting to move towards something more authentic. Then, stress transforms into creative strength, clarity, and the courage to make the change you've been postponing. And in that instant, you remember something you had forgotten, that your peace has always been available, waiting for you at the center of your being. Thank you for giving yourself this time, for opening up to seeing stress and anxiety from another, more compassionate, conscious, and transformative perspective. This space is yours, it is safe. Here there are no judgments, just a place to grow, to let go, and to remember that you are not alone. I would love to read in the comments how you felt about this, what it stirred up in you. Do you think this approach helps you see stress with new eyes? This channel is also a refuge for those of us who need to remember that even in the midst of chaos there is calm available inside. Write what you need, express what you feel, because you are accompanied here. What you share will be received with respect and empathy. As Louise Hay said, peace begins within me. The more peace I have in my mind, the more peace there is in my life. If this content gave you clarity or relief, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to continue deepening together on this path of healing and awareness. With all my heart, thank you for getting this far. I send you a big hug and my best wishes for you to have an excellent start to your week. This is a continuation of the previous text. The blueprint of our story, our language is more than just a description of reality. It's the very blueprint of our personal story. We don't just react to events, we create a narrative about them. Every time you describe a setback as a permanent failure or a challenge as an impossible obstacle, you are not simply stating a fact. You are actively writing the script for your future, and your body is the main character, paying close attention to every single line. This constant narration of worry keeps your nervous system on high alert. You are living the story of the past and fearing the story of the future, all while being physically present in the now. The brain doesn't distinguish between a memory of a difficult time and a present threat, so it keeps the stress response turned on. Even when you are safe, you become a prisoner of your own plotline, trapped by the characters and dialogues you have created. But what if you could become the editor of this story? The moment you choose to reframe a failure as a lesson or a loss as an opportunity for new growth, you begin to rewrite the script, changing your destiny from a place of fear to a place of possibility. The physiology of a habit. The vicious cycle of stress isn't just a mental one, it's deeply physiological. When you repeat phrases of complaint and tension, your brain carves out and reinforces neural pathways linked to fight or flight responses. This makes it easier for your mind to jump to anxiety, creating a deeply ingrained habit that is hard to break. This repeated stress response creates a cycle of chronic inflammation in the body. Hormones like cortisol flood your system, affecting everything from your digestive health to your immune system. That knot in your stomach, that persistent headache, or that sudden skin flare-up are not random occurrences. They are the body's physical protest against the mental and verbal abuse it endures. The body is wise, it doesn't lie, it provides constant feedback on your emotional and verbal habits. The key to breaking this cycle is to interrupt it at its source, the very words you use to talk about your life. If the language of stress is the root of so much suffering, the language of gratitude is its most powerful antidote. It is impossible to feel stressed and grateful at the exact same moment. They are two frequencies that cannot coexist. When you choose to speak words of gratitude, you are actively choosing to shift your brain's focus from what is wrong to what is right. This doesn't mean you should ignore your problems. It means you are giving your mind a conscious break from the loop of worry. Start small. Acknowledge the comfort of your bed, the warmth of your coffee, the sunlight in the morning. Each small expression of gratitude is a tiny act of rebellion against the habit of complaining. With every thank you, you are building a new pathway in your brain, one of peace, contentment, and abundance. Over time, this practice trains your mind to seek out what is good, making it easier to find calm even in the midst of chaos. Mindful action and conscious boundaries. Managing stress isn't just about changing your inner monologue, it's about changing your actions to match your words. One of the greatest sources of stress is living a life that is out of alignment with your deepest needs and values. This often stems from a fear of saying no. Learning to set boundaries is a radical act of self-love. Every time you say no to an overcommitment, you are saying yes to your mental and physical health. This reduces the external pressure that so often fuels our internal stress and anxiety. It is a practice of mindful action, where you choose your commitments from a place of peace, not from a place of obligation or guilt. Your body and mind will thank you as they are no longer forced to live in a state of constant overextension. The wisdom of your body. Instead of fighting these symptoms with medication alone, ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? Your gut health, your sleep patterns, and your overall energy are a direct reflection of your internal dialogue.